Bum, 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 bum. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the internet. It is your fellow traveler, your fellow passenger on this ride, man. It is Coach Kyle Evans coming to you from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Some call it the South, some call it stanky. I call it home. Happy to be here with you guys. Today, we are going to be talking about sales. We've been spending a lot of time in mindset. And so I want to pivot some and get into still some mindset, but also tactics, bring you some tactical skills, some things that you can apply. So this week, moving forward, we're going to be talking about sales EQ, right? Sales EQ. How can we master emotional intelligence in sales? Some of this stuff you've heard before, some of this will be new, some of this will be a great refresher. As always, when we're working towards mastery, the riches are in the niches, right? The riches are in the small things that we can go from good to great in. And I truly believe that not a lot of us spend enough time working on some small tweaks that could have a massive, massive difference in our business. So, this one today, what we're going to talk about is don't answer too soon. Don't answer too soon. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. In the South, in the deep South down yonder, there's a saying that says, the pastor's message is for himself. You just get to listen. The pastor's message is for himself. You just get to listen. I'm not talking at you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking with you. So as I was crafting this episode, I was very triggered and resonate with it because I do sometimes talk too soon. I do sometimes become unstill in the silence because I am a high D and a goer. I have worked very hard on training myself to let it breathe, right? To pause, to make sure that I am talking with someone, not at someone, to make sure that I'm asking questions that elicit responses more than one word, and that I'm not just telling and trying to sell. So today is all about that, man. How can we not answer too soon? How can we harness buyer resistance instead of fighting it? There's something that I've seen in my coaching journeys and my one-on-one travels and with our team lately, and it's that, buyer resistance is pretty high right now. Whether that be interest rates, whether that be the market, whether that be waiting for a great deal, whether that be, hey, I'm firmly in my mindset in a buyer's market, even though the market's still a seller's market or a neutral market, and I want something really low. The buyer resistance is real. And so today we're going to talk about how we can slow that down and work to become a partner with someone instead of an adversary. Here's the truth, man. We lose sales when we answer too quickly. Think about that. That can sound counterintuitive sometimes. We lose sales when we answer too quickly. Most sales are lost in the first 10 seconds after the objection. Let me say that again. Slow it down here. We're all about slowing down right now. Most sales are lost in the first 10 seconds after the objection. This is a very large problem with young agent Kyle. Let's dive in. Let's call this what it is. Objection anxiety. We have it. A lot of us are losing consultations before we walk in the door because of our objection anxiety, because we're thinking about it. We're fearful of what's going to happen. What are they going to say? What if they don't like my pitch? What if they don't like my questions? What if they don't like my commission? What if someone else said they would do it cheaper? Like, we're thinking about all those stuff. And a lot of times we're carrying that into the appointment, that objection anxiety. A client says something like, hey, man, I just need to think about it, Kyle. And you immediately lunge into logic. Just being transparent with you guys, calling myself out here. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Still do it sometimes, unfortunately. It's a thing that I'm working to fix. If a client says, I need to think about it, and you immediately lunge into logics and pressure and sales tactics, you're missing the mark. You start pitching harder, talking faster, stacking value like it's Legos. Here's the truth: the more we talk, the more they retreat. Why? Because objections just aren't about facts, ladies and gentlemen. They're not. Objections are not just about facts, they're about feelings. Slow down. We call it um, snorkeling versus scuba diving, right? The objection, we think it's right here, but it's actually way down deep. What do they feel about it? What's the emotion behind it? Logic makes you think, but emotions make you act. It was a bold law for a long time for a reason. Sometimes when we answer too fast, we're signaling insecurity and not certainty. The person who stays calm controls the frame. I have to constantly preach this to myself. The person who stays calm controls the frame. I know that can be easier said than done if you have not practiced this yet. And yet, self awareness leads to self mastery. Where are you answering too fast? Where are you signaling insecurity? Where are you talking and over talking and making the client, the customer, the consumer retreat? So let's dive into this, man. 3 parts of buyer resistance flow. All right. Here's the framework. And I know there's different frameworks out there. This is the one that I really enjoy. This is just from Kyle, nobody else. This is all for entertainment purposes only. Sure. Framework: awareness, reframing, permission. Awareness, reframing, permission. This is how top closers turn resistance into relationship and fear into movement. Remember, selling isn't telling, selling is asking questions. When I hear people say the line, buyers are liars, Kyle, buyers are liars, I'm like, no, no, they're not. They're not. Sorry, guys, they're not. Buyers just rarely say what they truly mean, and we're not diving deep enough. Buyers rarely say what they truly mean, and we are not professional enough to dive deep enough. They might say something like, it's not a good time. What they may mean is, I'm scared to commit. This is the big decision, and I don't have enough information. I'm scared. It's not the timing. But some of us will stop there. Okay, they said it's not a good time. I'm going to circle back in 8 months. And then they see them close in 2 months. And they're like, what happened? They told me 8 months. It's because it wasn't the logic, it was the emotion. Another one that you hear a lot: I need to check with my spouse. You know, that can actually mean, I'm not sold yet. I'm not sold yet. I may need to check with my spouse, may signal, not always, ladies and gentlemen, may signal I'm not sold yet. How about this one? I need to think about it. I need to think about it. It almost always, I'll put my neck out there and say, it almost always means I don't have enough clarity or trust in you to move. I want to think about it almost always means I do not have enough clarity or trust in you to move. And that's okay, because guess what? We can fix that, y'all. We can change that. We can give them more information. We can elicit more trust, but we have to understand where they're at a deep core level instead of the surface objection. Our job is to diagnose before we prescribe. You don't go into the doctor and he slaps a cast on you because you have a headache. That would be called malpractice. But some of you agents out there are running around doing malpractice stuff all the time because you're diagnosing without prescribing. I'm sorry. Because you're prescribing without diagnosing. It's early. So make sure that we take the time to slow down. We can't fix what we don't know. We can't truly help if we don't understand. So what to say instead of jumping in? Hey, I need to think about it. Totally fair. I'd feel the same way if I wasn't sure yet, too. Can I ask you, what is really sitting in the way? Hey, I need to think about it. Totally fair. I'd feel the same way if I wasn't sure yet, too. Can I ask you, what's really sitting in the way? Get them to author it. Gary Keller talks about this. Authorship is ownership. Give them the opportunity to author. Stop assuming stuff. Stop assuming. Stop putting how you feel in the things you know and your past and your history and your neuro linguistic programming onto someone else. We need to be curious. Phrase to watch for after we ask, hey, what's really sitting in the way for you? I just don't want to make a mistake. P.S. That's a lot of how people feel. They may not say it off the bat. It may take some questions. A lot of it is they are fearful of making a mistake, a miscalculation, a bad move. That's okay. But that's fear disguised as logic. So it's time to slow down and make it safe for them. So, how do we do that? Next, we've got to reframe, right? We're aware, we're getting into awareness, we're asking questions, we're not taking surface level objections, and then we're going to work on the reframe. We're going to shift the lens, not just the logic. Great salespeople, they don't argue, they redirect emotion. Whenever I see salespeople get into arguments, my first thought is this: you lost. You lost. Period. Adults are just grown-up children. When you get into an argument, you lost. You reframe the moment by turning their fear into a fork in the road. So it may sound something like this. Hey, I get it. It feels like a lot. And this is one of my favorite lines, so listen in here. But let's talk about what happens if we do nothing. What does life look like 6 months from now? What does life feel like 6 months from now, a year from now? Hey, I get it. It feels like a lot. But let's talk about what happens if we do nothing. If nothing changes, nothing changes. What does life look like for you guys 6 months from now? What does life look like for you 12 months from now? Have them author it. This is super simple stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And part of it is I think everybody should go into these conversations or these consultations or these strategy sessions with an idea of I am coming into this to be as curious as humanly possible. I'm coming into this to be as curious as humanly possible. We need to reframe without resistance. So here's an idea on the reframe. Use some things like sometimes. Hey, sometimes I've noticed that. Sometimes I've noticed that. Instead of you're wrong or actually it's this. No, sometimes I've noticed that. Here's a pro tip. Use stories that anchor the reframe. Use stories that anchor the reframe. We've got to get better at telling stories. Clients, customers, human beings, they love social proof because it breeds safety and reliability. Someone else did it and was successful in it. Therefore, it's safe to go into the unknown. So you might say something like this: hey, you know what? One of my clients said the same thing. And now they love their house. Now they're super happy. Now they couldn't imagine being anywhere else. Use stories of previous success or other success to build that social proof. So we've got the awareness, right? We've got the awareness. We've got the reframing. Now it's time to get permission. We lead with check ins, not with chase. Here's where most people lose it: they try to close too early, or they don't close at all. Guys, we don't push buyers. We invite them into their own courage. We invite them into their own power. We do this by using soft power permission frames. Hey, would it be helpful if I showed you a way people move forward without feeling overwhelmed? Hey, would it be helpful if I showed you a way people move forward without being overwhelmed? Can I ask you a bold question here? Are you still trying to convince yourself why you shouldn't? Or are you ready to figure out how to make it work? Can I ask you a bold question here? Are you still trying to figure out why you shouldn't? Or are you ready to figure out how to make it work? Just saying. It's a little different than you're wrong. This is what you should do. It's asking for permission. We're not forcing the close. We're inviting clarity. Permission creates buy-in. Buy-in builds belief. Permission creates a safe place where they feel in charge. They feel in power, i.e., they're more comfortable and confident to make a decision. Permission creates buy-in, and buy-in builds belief. Guys, great salespeople, they let the silence speak first. Silence is a signal, and it should be our superpower. Inexperienced salespeople, like I used to be, we fill space. We fill space because we're afraid of it. Because we're afraid of it. Closers hold space because they know emotion is forming inside of it. We know that it's doing the heavy lifting for us. We know that it's leading them to marination station that is going to deliver a fine steak. Inexperienced salespeople fill space because we're afraid of it. Closers hold space because we know emotion is forming inside of it. So how do we handle that silence? When the objection hits, instead of getting into objection anxiety, hey, this feels like a lot right now, pause for 2 to 3 seconds, not 10, not 30, that's just weird, but 2 or 3. Maintain eye contact. And work on your face. P.S. This may sound silly. It may sound funny. I'm being dead serious right now. Work on your face. What is your face doing? Hey, you see that face you're making? Stop it. You're doing it. Your face is telegraphing your thoughts. So in silence, when there are no words to go on, they're watching your body language in your face to telegraph your thoughts. Make sure you are working on that. So the objection hits. You're going to pause for a couple seconds, just a couple. Let it breathe. Then reflect back gently. Hey, this feels like a lot right now. Hey, that makes sense. What part of it feels the heaviest? Then let them author. Then I want you to circle back to their big why, circling back to why we're doing this. Hey, listen, let's go back for a second. What made you reach out to us in the first place? What had you raise your hand? Oh, well, we wanted to save some money. Awesome. And what was important about that? Bring them back to the motivation. Motivation moves, ladies and gentlemen, but you guys aren't slowing down enough to actually understand the why behind what they're doing. So we're going to head the objection. We're going to pause for a couple seconds. We're going to reflect back gently, curious, an open-ended question. And then we're going to circle them back to their big why. This rhythm grounds them in clarity instead of letting their fear drive the decision. This is simple. It's not easy. This takes practice. It takes practice. Acknowledge, ask for depth, and then anchor, right? Anchor back to the vision. Acknowledge the resistance. Ask open-ended questions for clarity, then anchor them back to the decision. We don't need a perfect script. In fact, patoo, I think that's poo-poo. I'm just going to say it, potty words today. Poo-poo. You don't need a perfect script. One doesn't exist. You need to understand timing. You need to understand tension. You need to understand their truth. Because the real sale doesn't happen when you talk. It happens when you listen without rushing, when you pause with confidence, when you lead without pushing. If you stop answering too soon, you'll stop losing deals too early. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, patience isn't passive, it's powerful. Today and every day, let's work on getting 1% better. Let's work on that Kaizen life. Let's work on becoming professionals instead of amateurs. I believe in you. Let's go get it today. If you need me, call me, shoot me out, drop in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, what we should think more of moving forward on this Sales EQ series this week. And I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Out.